I needed something else to listen to podcasts to while I was playing a video game.
Don't you dare.
So
I was literally about to ask.
So I picked
Go
up
on, so everyone knows what we're joking about.
Yeah, your favorite game of all time, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze.
One of.
Yeah, so I'm playing DK Tropical Freeze and Bally.
You didn't listen to podcasts while playing it.
No, I did. Of course I did. Bally,
but did you?
It's a platformer.
Did you have the music on as well?
Yeah, of course I did. I always have it on in the background. It's still going. I need some audio cues. Audio is actually a big part of what I want to talk about with this game, Bally.
Excellent.
It's something that I kind of forgot from playing Returns, and maybe being on 3DS, it didn't have as much of an impact on me. But the sound design in this game is fucking awesome. And you know what I've railed so many times about how I love sound design. Metroid Fusion is one of my favorite games because of like every time you grab a ledge, there's a satisfying click to it, and when you engage the missile, it locks in, and the screw attack just sounds amazing, and the space jump has this kind of whooshy feel to it. Like, good sound design in games, if you do it well, I'm gonna pay attention. And so when I'm jumping on enemies and just bopping them, you just want to bop on them all in a row, Bally. You just want to bop them all because it just feels like there's this great sense of something hitting it's really hard to describe, but there's this great sense.
It's a very natural feeling that is setting off something in your brain that just feels very good. Like, it's very difficult to describe. And we've had this problem describing music before. Like, it's hard to eloquate sometimes.
But you know when sounds are good and when sounds are bad. You know,
exactly.
Something can really hurt your ears if it's like this high pitched thing, or if it's kind of fuzzy. But something that is kind of crisp and solid really makes an impact. And so those sounds aren't necessarily crisp and solid, but they are very they fit with the tone, they fit with the kind of jolly upbeat nature of the game, and I really enjoy that. Like, it's not just jumping on enemies, it's collecting items, like getting bananas, the kind of, you know, there's little sounds that kind of you pops
into
very good
your impression.
Yeah, I know. I try. I'm a great voice actor here. So all that stuff just comes together in a great way that I find very satisfying. So despite the fact that it's it has problems with, it's quite slow and fast at the same time. Tropical Freeze, like, you feel your main walking speed is really slow, but you have to run to kind of pick up momentum. It's a very momentum-based game, but that momentum, I think, is carried through when you're just jumping enemy to enemy. It really has a great feel to it.
Dixie Kong OP?
Dixie Kong is what makes this game easy. It actually is kind of ridiculous.
Easy or playable?
No, I think the game is playable. It's just incredibly difficult when you don't have that crutch to lean on. And so, I went through, I played a bit of Cranky, I used Diddy for a little bit, but it's just so obvious. Like, Dixie is by far the best secondary character in that game, and she just saves you so many times that you wouldn't even think about. Like, I think even just the normal jump gives you a bit of a higher jump than you would usually have, and then you dip down and up again, and it gives you that variability to where if you're jumping to a moving platform, you have a wiggle room, right? Like, it allows you to kind of judge, but also be like, oh, if I fudge it, I'm okay. Like, it kind of removes any fear. And so I think that's a lot of the problem with platforming generally, and why I have issues with Mario, is fear. You're afraid to make that jump because you don't know if you're going to nail it, and if you don't nail it, guess what? You're starting the level again. And with Dixie on your side, removing that fear allows you to act more naturally on instinct, and so as a result, you can make the jumps, and it's more of the fact of you knowing that you have the crutch rather than necessarily needing the crutch. Like, there are moments that I don't double jump in the level at all, I'm just normal jumping, but because I know I have the safety net of Dixie, it doesn't worry me. Which is very interesting. And
like when you do lose Dixie, or Diddy for that matter, and you're just platforming with DK by himself, you do feel very, very vulnerable and heavy, and like you're gonna just sink past that platform instantly. And I mean, if you just want to really play this game on hard mode, you just have to play as Donkey Kong, don't you? Like, it's really, really challenging in some parts.
It's not only that you are more incompetent platforming, you also have 2 less hits to take. So you become even more vulnerable, like, physically and just, from that perspective.
And what do you think of the water levels that they've added to this game that is sort of different to Returns?
I don't think I've played any water levels yet, Bally.
Okay.
So
and you're
I
a couple of worlds in?
I should say I'm at the end of World 2. I beat the boss of World 2. So I haven't played a significant amount, but I've played enough to get the sense of why you love this game. And I'm going to tell you particularly why you love this game.
Okay, here we go.
Because as someone who played a little bit of this when I was around at yours, and I've seen a couple levels, and I've played the whole of Donkey Kong Country Returns. I'm like, why does Bally like this game so much? Like, this game is the same as Returns,
and
right?
I have played Returns as well, I should add.
Exactly, and I think that you're more down on that game. Not down, but like you don't praise it as highly.
Not down. I like it a lot, but you're right. Yep, I praise this one more highly.
Yeah, so obviously we know that the music is great in this game, although I'm not really listening to it that much because, Dan Reichert was wrong. It's not the best music of 2014. The aesthetic of this game is on another level. And you, as someone who appreciates great art and theming and how a level kind of combines its playability with its look, this game is an echelon above a lot of other platformers. And it reminded me a lot of Yoshi's Woolly World, but where Yoshi's Woolly World kind of gets bogged down in some of the kind of slowness and some of the, it looks amazing and it has that great aesthetic to it, but this game has a pace, but also just assaults you with so many different aspects. And it really came to the forefront in the second world, where you're in this place with all these windmills and you're going through this country kind of landscape. But it's very distinctive from this jungle atmosphere.
Very autumnal almost. Is that the second world?
Yes, autumnal.
Yeah.
It is the second world. And so you see these pumpkins kind of scattered around. And then you get to an area where you're literally platforming on falling autumn leaves as they kind of move from the top to the bottom of the screen. And, at a base level, mechanically, you're just platforming on platforms that are disappearing. That's been in Mario, that's been in any other game. But the way they tie context into the platforming itself and the aesthetic of it is so satisfying. It's just you get the sense that developers really thought very hard about how we can make this world feel very much associated with kind of the tone that it's going for.
And I think stuff like that gets progressively better throughout the game, I think, actually. And you get far more sort of machinery and things like that and contraptions that you see in levels that parts of them fall apart that you're using to platform on, and then they have some other effect like wind or something. And you're right, mechanically this game is great, but not special, arguably. But when you're right, when you're combining it with the way that it treats theming into those mechanics, it just works really well. And like you said, the soundtrack on top of it, the sound design on top of it, there's a real special
there's a
quality
cohesion, right? Like
exactly.
it feels like a package in the way that the first Donkey Kong Country Returns is a really good game, and it was a return, and it was like, I'm back. Donkey Kong is here are these mechanics. We've got added a partner character that works in kind of different way to how it worked on the Super Nintendo. And that felt like, okay, we're just getting our feet under us. And I know people criticize Retro for going back to Donkey Kong, but I think what they learnt and what they understood is they took that blueprint and they just fucking canvassed. They just painted a beautiful artistic piece over the top of what was already solid foundation, right? And so that is the real through line of why I know that you love this game so much, and it's working on me a great deal, despite the fact that, from a design standpoint, I'm just kind of jumping, killing enemies, and there are moving platforms and there are things that disappear, but the context given to those moving platforms and the things that disappear is what elevates it. And I want to pick out in particular in World 2 one of the levels, which is a minecart-based one, and I really love minecart stuff. I think that it's, it
changes the pace well.
It changes it, but it also is a different kind of style where you're thinking differently. You're just using one button to do a lot of actions.
It's a very different skill as well, yeah.
Yeah, but the level which essentially you're going through a theme park water ride, and it changes. You're in the minecart, and then you're suddenly in the water boat going down areas, and
like
then
a log flume.
Yeah, log flume. A log flume is what I'm looking for. So you're going through a log flume, like you're going under the water sometimes and jumping up over stuff, and then by the end of the level, this giant chainsaw starts rolling behind you, and you need to jump perfectly to hit the bits of wood that are flying in front of it to create the level in front of you, and it is just absolutely amazing. Like, it is an incredible level that really you know, I died a lot of times on it, but I was really enjoying it every time I went back to it. And I didn't expect, you know, I just thought I'd go into this game and it would just be some good levels, good platforming. This is why, you know, that there is just so much care and attention to the animation and the art, and it's really good.
Cool.
So I'm only 2 worlds in, but that stuff is really stuck out.
I'm super glad you're enjoying it so far. And you sound so positive from just the first 2 worlds, and I actually think that the sort of next 6 worlds are far better than the first 2 worlds. So I definitely look forward to what you have to say about the rest of the game.
Let me end with the negative, because I just want to emphasize this, and it pissed me off about Returns, and it's still bad. This boss design fucking sucks. Yeah. Retro, get your shit together, because I do not want to have to go through 2 stages of this owl that I can sleep through and get to the last one and fucking die instantly, you know? Like,
some of the bosses get a lot harder.
It is punishing in a very frustrating way. Like, I am fine with you making these bosses difficult, but make them difficult in a way that doesn't rely on waiting and waiting for animation cycles to happen, for just this one window of opportunity that I have to kill this boss. It is bad boss design, and I like that you have to learn patterns, but to some degree that goes over the top. Like, there is a point at which you can stop learning a pattern, and this is like, no, we're just gonna get you to learn again and again. And that boss took me a long time, and it wasn't necessarily fulfilling when I beat him, because I was like, I basically had to get so good at this boss that I didn't take a single hit. And that's not really something that you should have to do, you know? It's just not right. So
it's not good. And as hard as this game is, I think a lot of the bosses, especially later in the game, are a tier above how hard the rest of the game is at points. It really does feel like you have to become like a platforming god for a few minutes just to clear some of those guys.
It's just unfair in the aspect that you don't know what's coming next, and so they can just throw some shit at you, and you're like, well, now I have to go through again what I've already done, and then I'll finally get back to where I was, and now I have to pay attention again, and it's a real disconnect, because I'm kind of sleeping through the first 2 stages, and I get to the third one, I'm like, okay, I need to wake myself up out of having slept through those first 2 phases. Now I have to pay attention, and it's just bad pacing, you know? Like, if you're going against a boss, you need to continually run against it and learn it as you go. Kills the momentum. Really does.
It's annoying.
As aesthetically pleasing as those bosses are, and as great as those stages look, it's unforgivable.
Some of the boss theme music is glorious. But yeah. Cool.
So, if you enjoyed this discussion and would like to hear more, consider subscribing to us on YouTube and following the podcast playlist. You can also find us on iTunes and various other places. Follow us on Twitter at TNL Podcast, and email us thisnintendolife@gmail.com. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.